voice at all, which is down to the huge amount of campaigning we're doing on TTIP at the moment. So if, by any chance, I completely shut up in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to spend the rest of it just doing striptease between various shirts, all of which are different. But I'm really thrilled to be here. I'm really pleased that we've been able to make this link between the fight for the NHS and the fight against TTIP and all of these free trade deals. We're all here because we care about the NHS and we want it back in public hands. And everything that we're planning to do today is about bringing it back into public hands, back into public control. But the sad truth is that all of our actions could be null and void if we allow TTIP to go through. The Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership currently being negotiated behind closed doors without any of us getting access to any of the materials or the documents by the European Commission and the US government. If it goes through, the privatisation of the NHS is forever. And that's the whole point from the point of view of the private companies who are already sinking their fangs into the NHS as we speak. You all know about TTIP, I'm sure. The Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. It's being billed as this new generation of trade deals, not like in the past where it was about coffee and steel and a little bit of tariff negotiation here, there or everywhere. This is the new generation. This is their model for the future, where they reach into our societies and they re-engineer everything that we hold dear in favour of big business. It's about deregulation. It's about getting rid of all of those key standards that we've fought for so many years. The environmental standards, the food safety standards, standards protecting our health and the health of children from endocrine disruptors and other things you find very difficult to say when you've got a sore throat. All of the standards on labour standards, on all of the things that we fought for. TTIP is about saying these are no longer good things which we should prize in our societies. These are barriers to the maximisation of profit for multinational corporations. And TTIP is about saying you don't have the right to press for higher standards in the future. It's all about lowering these standards and giving business a free hand. But next to that incredibly damaging, thank you so much, Keith. Next to that incredibly damaging agenda of deregulation is the central agenda of privatisation. It's about giving the private sector reach into new markets it's never had access to before. But worse than that, because we know that our government's already done that. We know about the Health and Social Care Act, that it's already broken up the NHS for private profit. What TTIP says is that privatisation is irreversible. You don't get it back. That's the whole point about trade agreements. You're saying to multinational corporations from everywhere in the world, this market is open and it's guaranteed to remain open forever. And that's why when Andy Burnham comes along and says we want to repeal the Health and Social Care Act, but Labour is still supporting TTIP, they're talking at cross purposes. Many people here will know much more about the other bits of the effort bill. But when Live Effort says we want to have a statement in Britain which says we won't allow TTIP to overrule our desire to keep the NHS, bring it back into public hands, he just hasn't read the small print. You don't get that choice. Basically, trade rules trump everything you do at the national level. And that's why we're absolutely clear you can't allow TTIP to go forward. But the other thing, the outrageous transfer of power in TTIP, this idea that multinational corporations will get the power in the future to sue any government when we choose that we want to take back public services into public hands. It's an absolute outrage. The people of Slovakia, they had gone through a privatisation of their health insurance system. And they voted in a new government precisely on a platform to reverse that privatisation. In came the new government of Slovakia. They reversed the privatisation, and immediately they were hit by a whole lot of suits from Dutch companies who said, we liked it being privatised. We were making good money out of the privatisation, and you have to pay us compensation to take it back into public hands. And sure enough, they were found to be right. Slovakia had to pay 22 million euros in compensation. And when they said they didn't feel like doing that, a court in Luxembourg froze 29 million euros of their assets just so that this Dutch company could be paid back. And I think we need to be aware here, this isn't just about the US corporations being able to sue us if they find that we take the NHS back into public hands. Exactly as Keith says, and I hope I'm going to do what he said and get the nice cheer of this, companies like Virgin Care have got all of the tax arrangements, which means they can sue from their offshore tax havens because they can invent themselves as being based in the Cayman Islands or the British Virgin Islands or whatever tax haven takes their fancy. So we must be aware that the NHS will be absolutely in the frame. And you must be careful about this because so much stuff has come out of the government here and out of the European Commission trying to reassure people that somehow the NHS is not going to be part of TTIP. Well, we have seen absolutely categorically, health services are in TTIP. If you didn't see the BBC Scotland leak of the EU's initial offer on this, just Google BBC Scotland TTIP. It was only about 5-6 weeks ago, and you can read the schedule of commitments that the EU is already offering up. Health services, including hospital services, are in. Medical services are in. Physiotherapy, midwifery, dentistry, you list them. And then you see that it's not just health services. It's education, it's water, it's sewerage, it's rail, it's post, it's financial services. It's everything that we want to take back into public hands. And that's why I'm really pleased, you know, that on the statement which we have here today, the 5 points, the call is for no TTIP. And that's really important. Not let's get the NHS out of TTIP. Because we don't want them to start dividing us against each other. Because there are education meetings going on at exactly the same time, where teachers and others who are fighting for the right to public education are saying, we don't want to have TTIP either. And we mustn't allow them to be played off against us. Okay, we'll get NHS out, but we'll keep education in. We'll get water in and we'll keep the rail out. No, we must stand together and say no to TTIP, full stop. And I come back to the issue of the election like so many of us have. It is unacceptable for a Labour Party to be saying yes to TTIP. We expect the Tories and the Lib Dems to do it. Obviously they're going to do it. They're there as parties of capital. That's what they were set up for. But Labour is meant to be standing up for the interests of ordinary working people, and it needs to be taking a stand to say no to TTIP. So when they come knocking on your door asking for your vote, ask them what their position is on TTIP. Ask them also what their position is on a whole range of other things. On austerity, why is it that the poorest and most vulnerable people in our society are being made to pay for a crisis that they did not cause? And why is it, if you want to have cuts, why is it that you're voting for another £100 billion to be added to our military spending budget, to create a new form of trident deterrent which will never be used and is complete criminal waste? And that's why we're saying, do not have a trident replacement, do not continue with any of the cuts, any of the austerity, and let's bring the NHS back into public hands. But the first thing, next Saturday, we have a global day of action. Not just a day of action in this country, not just a day of action across Europe, but across the whole world, saying no to TTIP, no to the EU-Canada deal, CETA, no to the Trade in Services Agreement, TISA, no to any acronym that you can think of, which includes free trading. And that's really, really exciting because we've now got hundreds of events which are being planned across the whole world. In this country, we've got events in Derby, which Keith was talking about, in Norwich, in Leicester, in Brighton, in Reading. Today, as we speak, they're meeting in Scotland for the launch of the No TTIP Scotland Coalition and planning for next weekend as well. But for anybody who's in London, and I hope all the people who are cheering for the Chelsea and Westminster Charing Cross Hospital earlier are going to be on this. West London, Shepherd's Bush Green, 12 o'clock. Brilliant. 12 o'clock on Saturday. Everybody who's in London must be there. We're going to start with a big rally to get people in the mood, and then we're going to take it a little bit further, and we might just be visiting one or two of the nice companies that have been mentioned earlier on today. I couldn't possibly come. Really look forward to seeing you all there, but this, just to finish, this is a really profound choice. We can have a future which is set up for profit and for big business and for transnational capital to prosper. We can have a system which puts us and our aspirations second, or we can fight against that and we can demand a new dispensation, a new system which says we want the NHS back in public hands. We want to have our rights to health, to education, to water, to a decent future, to decent working standards. We want all these things guaranteed in the future. You can't have that if you have TTIP. That's why we say no TTIP, yes to the NHS, and yes to a future that we can believe in. Thank you very much.